Britain's wartime Prime Minister Winston Churchill was a brilliant orator whose speeches rallied the nation in the fight against Hitler. And the reason he was so persuasive? He spoke the language of the people. Churchill's down-to-earth tone was in stark contrast to that of an American general who once asked Churchill to critique a speech that he was planning to give. Churchill read the speech and he wasn't impressed. Here's what he said.
Too many Latinate polysyllabics like systematize, prioritize, and finalize. What if I had said, instead of, we shall fight on the beaches, hostilities will be engaged with our adversary on the coastal perimeter?
Well, he's certainly right about the use of polysyllabic words, but what did he mean by Latinate? Well, to understand that, let me take you back to the year 1065. In that year, England was populated by a race of people known as the Anglo-Saxons. They'd arrived in England in the 5th century from continental Europe, and they spoke a predecessor of modern English called Old English. And here's what it sounded like. Se wise where timbroda his hus over stan. The wise man built his house on stone. But the following year, in 1066, the Anglo-Saxons were conquered by the Normans at the Battle of Hastings. Unlike the English-speaking Anglo-Saxons, the Normans spoke French and wrote in Latin. And suddenly, Latin became the predominant language of the ruling classes, the language of the law and the court. Meanwhile, Old English remained the language of the people, and so a two-tier language developed, Latin on the one hand, Old English on the other. And this two-tier language can still be seen in modern English. Remember se wise where timbroda his hus over stan? In modern English, as we saw, you could say this as the wise man built his house on stone. But you could also translate this Old English sentence into a modern English sentence like this. The sagacious individual constructed his residence in a superior position to petrological material. Now the first looks much closer to the original because all the words come from Old English, the language of the Anglo-Saxons. Look how similar some of the words still are. In the second version, all those big words come from Latin, the language of the ruling Normans. Notice how the words are longer, more polysyllabic, and much less similar to Old English. Let's look at some more examples. The words on the left are all what I'd call $10 words, and they're all derived from Latin. The words on the right are all what I'd call 10-cent words, and they're all from Old English. And you can instantly see that the Latin words are longer. But notice anything else about them. Notice how they're also more abstract. It's easy to picture a house, it's a concrete thing, but a residence? That could be anything from a palace, to a flat, to a squat. Residence is more about the abstract concept of a place to live than the concrete building with bricks and windows. Likewise, hostilities could mean anything, couldn't it? A chilly greeting, a standoff on the chessboard, an exasperated tutting at someone who jumps the queue. But fighting, you can't help but picture blood, sweat and tears. In other words, while Latinate language may sound posh, it's the language of the people that has all the power. And many business writers trade in this people power for the sake of poshness. Let me show you some examples of business writers that got a little carried away with the Latin.